Our top story tonight is about China's sneak invasion of Russia. You see, China's territorial greed knows no limits, not even bonds of friendship. To grab land illegally, China will go to any length, even if it means sacrificing long-standing and close friendships with an iron brother. China is trying to capture land from its closest ally, Russia. You heard that right. The world sees Russia and China's growing bonhomie, but behind the scenes, Beijing is preparing to stab its friend in the back. It's quietly trying to capture Russian territory. Let me say that again. Quietly trying to capture Russian territory. Even though China and Russia have touted their unlimited partnership on the global stage, it looks like a far eastern corner of Russia has caught China's eye. I am talking about Russia's border region of Primorsky Krai. This Russian region shares a border with China. It is located northeast of North Korea. The port city of Vladivostok is on its southern coast. Now, this region of Russia has now become a subject of interest in China. In fact, recently, Chinese farmers have been showing up in this region in droves. They have come here looking for land, engage in large-scale agriculture, harvest soybeans, as well as other crops to export to China. But make no mistake here, these Chinese farmers are not seasonal workers. From an economic standpoint, they have become this Russian region's movers and shakers. Sure, Russians are still the landowners, but the surge of Chinese farmers is just changing the dynamics of the region. You see, Chinese farmers are out-competing the Russian locals here. Naturally, Russian farmers are angry at the growing economic clout of the Chinese farmers, and this has created a crisis in Primorsky Krai. According to reports, the surge of Chinese farmers will likely continue. You see, the other side of the border, Chinese cities have recently suffered financial collapses. Jobs are disappearing, which means that people are crossing over to Russia in hopes of a better future. But what's the history of Primorsky Krai? Why has China set its eyes on this region? To understand this, we need to go back in time. In 1860, the Russian Empire concluded the Treaty of Peking with the Qing dynasty. It was struggling against the aggression of foreign powers. Under the treaty, a vast coastal region that now includes Primorsky Krai is said to have been ceded to the Russian Empire. That is how the fishing village of Haishenwai became part of Russia. Immediately after, the Russian Empire renamed Haishenwai to Vladivostok. And today, Vladivostok is the administrative center as well as a key military port for national defense of Russia. That's the short history of Russia's Far East region. Now, cut to 2023, a year after Russia invaded Ukraine, the Chinese government issued an ordinance. And this ordinance basically required contemporary Chinese maps to use the old name, the Chinese name of Haishenwai, to refer to Vladivostok. Thus, the old Chinese village made a comeback, at least cartographically. In a way, just like Russian President Vladimir Putin claims Ukraine has always been part of the Russian nation, Chinese President Xi Jinping sees Primorsky Krai as part of old Chinese territory. You see, Xi Jinping has held the restoration of this perceived lost territory very high on his agenda. What agenda, you ask? The great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. So last year, when China redefined its borders in a new map that claimed parts of India, Malaysia, the Philippines and Taiwan as Chinese territories, it also included parts of Russia as part of Chinese territory. The revival of the Qing dynasty era Chinese names extended to 8 locations in Russia's Far East. It included Khabarovsk, Blagoveshchensk, along the Sino-Russian border, and Sakhalin, the Sea of Okhotsk Island. We all know about China's plan to someday bring the self-governed island nation of Taiwan into its fold. Beijing has also claimed most of the South China Sea. It has cited so-called historical rights, also against the Philippines as well as other countries. Let's not forget China's aggressive moves in the Himalayas. In recent years, Beijing has illegally occupied parts of Bhutan and Nepal. In fact, in 2022, it was found that villages in Nepal's Darchula, Gorkha and Rui have been taken over by China. In September 2020, China also built 11 structures on the remote border of the Humla district. The pillars were found to have been demolished and moved by China. And this is just an example of how China asserts its dominance. The so-called rejuvenation of China is not the only agenda. What Beijing really wants is something else entirely. Let me explain this. Russia's Far Eastern region is rich in rare earth minerals. Reserves of copper, iron, tin, rare earth metals are concentrated in the Far East region. Huge resources of oil and gas, mineral deposits, diamond, gold, borax, coal. And these are critical to the defense, telecommunications, as well as renewable energy sectors. I mean, this place is a gold mine of under-tapped opportunities. No wonder then China has set its eyes on this region. The truth is, China is the only country in the world that has tried to steal and grab land from its neighbors. China does not know how to be friends. It basically wants friendships on its terms. Well, with friends like China, who needs enemies? The fighting in Ukraine has escalated. Both sides have intensified their assaults. Ukraine claims it launched attacks on multiple fronts yesterday. This includes Kupiansk, Donetsk and Avdiivka. The Ukrainian army also targeted Russian anti-aircraft missile system, anti-tank weapons, multiple rocket launchers. Russia is saying that it repelled all those attacks. Last night, Russian air defense forces shot down a number of Ukrainian drones in Belgorod and Kursk regions. It also hit base stations for electronic warfare, ammunition depots, drone factory. In the Ukrainian city of Dnipro, a Russian missile attack damaged an educational facility, injuring 18 people. Russia has been launching attacks deep into the Ukrainian territory for long. Now, Ukraine is also showing that it is capable of doing the same. The war has escalated well beyond the front lines. Here's what the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, had to say.
Dear Ukrainians, rescue operations are currently underway in Dnipro after a Russian missile strike. In particular, buildings of a college and a kindergarten class have been damaged. All services are on site. I think everyone who is responding, who is going to the strike sites in order to provide assistance to people as quickly as possible. This is the most important thing. Equally important is that the Russians are receiving responses to their strikes. Each time, longer-range responses.
He is talking about longer-range responses within Russian territory. Case in point, a Ukrainian drone struck Russia's third-largest oil refinery in the Tatarstan region yesterday. It is some 1,300 kilometers from the border. According to Ukrainian intelligence sources, the drone hit the primary refining unit and caused a fire. This particular unit processes about 155,000 barrels of crude oil per day. It accounts for around half of the plant's total annual production capacity. Now, another intelligence source has claimed that Ukrainian-made drones also hit a Russian plant producing long-range Shahed attack drones. You see, in recent months, Ukraine has started attacking oil refineries in Russia. It aims to affect Moscow's highly lucrative trade in refined products. According to Reuters estimates, around 14% of Russia's refining capacity has been shut down due to Ukrainian drone attacks. And this comes as Russian missiles have been targeting Ukraine's energy grid. Meanwhile, Ukraine is asking for all hands on deck in hopes to generate more fighting power. President Zelensky has signed a bill to lower the mobilization age for combat duty from 27 to 25. It had been on his table since it was approved by lawmakers in May 2023. What prompted him to sign it now? That is not clear. In fact, the signing of the legislation was not immediately announced by the president's office. The parliament merely updated the entry for the bill on its website, which read, "Returned with the signature of the president of Ukraine." The question is Zelensky trying to keep it low-key? Because the people of Ukraine are not interested in serving in the army. They have been trying to evade conscription for a while now. The bill is only going to be condemned owing to its unpopularity. Zelensky has separately signed a second bill. It calls for men given waivers from military service on disability grounds to undergo another medical assessment. He also signed a third bill aimed to create an online database of those eligible for military service. But a string of strict measures set out in an earlier draft of this bill were removed following a public outcry. You see, Ukraine is desperate to recruit soldiers, and that's only a part of Zelensky's many troubles. Ukrainian troops are on the back foot on the battlefield. They are facing a shortage of ammunition supplies with vital funding from the US blocked by Republicans in the Congress for months now. The European Union is also failing to deliver promised ammunition on time. NATO members are also mulling on how to put military support for Ukraine on a long-term footing. This includes a proposal for a 5-year fund worth $107 billion. And our next story is about Pakistan. That it has been witnessing chaos is nothing new, but it is the extent to which this chaos runs and how things are spiraling out of control that is shocking. The question is, where do things even go from here? Is there an end to this chaos? And can it be reined in? And there are multiple reasons why I'm asking these questions tonight. Let me break down the biggest one for you. Pakistan, as I speak, is panic-stricken. And this has nothing to do with the economic crisis in the country. This is about white powder letters. What kind of white powder? Before I get to that, you know who received these letters? High Court judges. You heard that right. On the 2nd of April, all 8 judges of the Islamabad High Court, including the Chief Justice Ahmed Farooq, received suspected anthrax-laced letters. And that's not all. A day later, that is today, the 3rd of April, the horror repeated. Some judges of Pakistan's Lahore High Court got threatening white powder letters. What's even going on? Who was responsible? Even 24 hours later, there is no clarity. How and why is there no clarity on who is behind these letters? Also, the timing of these letters being received is extremely crucial. Let me just tell you what happened before these judges received the letters. You see, the letters were received following a very interesting development. The Supreme Court took suo motu notice and formed a 7-member bench chaired by the Chief Justice of Pakistan to hear the case of 6 Islamabad High Court justices who accused spy agencies, including Pakistan's powerful intelligence agency, the ISI, of meddling in judicial matters. In fact, there were allegations by the Islamabad High Court judges that their bedrooms were bugged, also that their relatives were abducted and tortured by the intelligence agency's personnel to get desired verdicts. Now, were these letters meant to intimidate the judges? What's the guarantee that this will not happen again? And what is being done to protect judges from threats? What about safeguarding the judiciary's independence? Also, if this can happen to judges in Pakistan, what does this tell you about the situation on the ground? And by the way, this is not the only horror that Pakistan is dealing with. There's also the terror. And we have been telling you at great length about how Pakistan has been under attack by the TTP. Look at what the situation on the ground is looking like. It's grim and scary to say the least. Now, we are just into the 4th month of this year, and Pakistan has already seen 245 terror attacks and counter-terror operations. Pakistan's support to terrorism has left it to pay the price for its actions, it seems. And caught in the midst of these crises are the people of Pakistan, who are grappling with growing uncertainty and economic chaos, soaring inflation, persisting cost of living crisis. Let me just give you a sample of what they have been going through, just how bad things have gotten in the cash-strapped country. The latest report by the World Bank is a sad reminder of the state of affairs in Pakistan. The biannual report warns that over 10 million more people are at risk of descending into poverty in Pakistan. Over 10 million more people. Roughly 98 million Pakistanis, by the way, are already grappling with poverty. And the report indicated that Pakistan is set to miss almost all major macroeconomic targets. Pakistan's worsening chaos has left its civilians in the lurch with no way out. No wonder there have been reports of Pakistan flight attendants going missing after landing in Canada. Or the story of a Pakistani boxer nowhere to be found and going missing in Italy. Are these signs of growing desperation among the people of Pakistan who want to run away from the land of mounting misery?